In today's video, I want to talk to you about whether or not you should copy the pros. We get a lot of comments on our YouTube videos, oftentimes comments like, well, we demonstrate something and the comment goes like, well, but Federer does this or Djokovic does this, and that's different. So what should I do? So what's the answer to that question, should you copy the pros or not? The answer is sometimes yes and sometimes no. The pros have mastered the fundamentals of great technique, and usually we want to copy the fundamentals. At the same time, the pros often use advanced technical elements that oftentimes we don't want to copy, and that really depends on your level of play and where you're at with your technique. Let's look at an example here. The forehand is a great example where sometimes we want to copy the pros and sometimes we don't. One element that's often discussed is the wrist on the forehand. Should the wrist be rather stable, okay, so like this, or should there be a lot of action here at the wrist joint? Now, when I work with my students, oftentimes when there are fundamental problems on the forehand, I want them to stabilize the wrist. I don't want to see a lot of action here. Why is that the case? With a stable wrist position, it's much easier to get clean contact on the forehand. And it's more important to master the fundamentals first, hit the ball clean and consistent than it is to add that last little bit of power that the pros do. When we look at the pros, we see the tip a little bit to the outside. This is what I call the late hitting concept. Then the wrist flicks back like this, and then that uncoils the contact, and that adds a lot of power to the forehand. But if you have fundamental problems on your forehand and you try to do that, you're going to frame a ton of shots. So that really depends on where you're at with your forehand, for example. Another good example here is the one-handed backhand. I see a lot of players coming to my clinics lately with extreme grips on the one-handed backhand, so where the hand is really behind the handle here like this. And I'm guessing they do that because they looked at somebody like Stan Wawrinka, for example, who hits a phenomenal one-handed backhand with more of an extreme grip. Now this grip is a huge problem for most club level players because they really struggle to swing inside out with that grip. I see so many players coming to my clinics swinging more outside in instead of swinging inside out. And so copying that grip on the one-handed backhand is a big mistake usually. Now, probably not for everyone. I'm sure there are some club level players who pull that grip off and for whom that makes sense, but most of the time that's a problem. So it is difficult to generalize whether or not you should copy the pros. I just showed you two examples on the forehand side where sometimes it can make sense to copy the pros, what's going on with the wrist on the forehand. Sometimes you probably shouldn't do that, and the one-handed backhand as well regarding the grips. In our free instructional videos, I always try to present fundamental elements of technique that should work for most of the people watching the videos. Now, how can you get this absolutely right? To really know whether or not you should copy the pros with certain elements like that advanced forehand late hitting concept I discussed, you need to get personalized feedback. You can do that, for example, with our video courses where you can send in a video of your forehand or whatever stroke you're working on, and then we will give you personalized feedback and let you know which elements you should copy, which elements you shouldn't copy. And of course, we also offer clinics where you can get on-court instruction with personalized feedback as well.